Welcome to a provincial elections candidates and lived experience discussion about the cost of living, food insecurity, and poverty reduction. I'm joined by members of LLEAG, the Lived and Living Experience Advisory Group for Food First N.L. It's a team of people across Newfoundland and Labrador from different backgrounds with different life experiences. But they all share one thing in common. They're experts on food insecurity and poverty. We have two members here in studio, plus some video submissions for questions. We've got Tina Hann and Hailey Pudan. Welcome back to The Signal. Also with us today for the conversation, three candidates running in the upcoming provincial election on October 14th. We've got Bernard Davis, Liberal candidate for Virginia Waters-Pleasantville, Laurabel Mba, NDP candidate for Mount Scio, and Craig Pardy, PC candidate for Bonavista. We're going to have 1 minute opening statements from each candidate on how their party plans to tackle the high cost of living, poverty reduction, and food insecurity, plus an idea on policy plans. Then, each LLEAG member will also introduce themselves and ask a question. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, folks. The way we'll start this, 1 minute opening statement from each candidate on how their party plans to tackle cost of living, poverty reduction, and food insecurity, and some of the policy ideas in and around that. I guess I'll go right to left to begin. So, Mr. Pardy, we'll start with you for 1 minute, and we'll just rack up a clock here, and we can go. So, anytime you're comfortable.
Okay, good. Thank you, Adam. Our party, the Progressive Conservative Party, had a poverty reduction plan back in 2007. It received national acclaim. It was reducing poverty in Newfoundland and Labrador. Organizations in Canada sang the praises of it. It was a comprehensive, collaborative plan that met with success. It moved us from the highest amount of poverty in Canada to second place, which was remarkable. We plan on having that plan again if we will get in. We think we need specific, measurable targets. Without specific, measurable targets on reducing poverty, how do we know if we've achieved or reached our goal? And really, there are three sections. The basic personal income tax amount we're planning on raising to $15,000, saving people, providing $340 to individuals. We're looking at the Newfoundland child benefit, including another 3,000 children into it. And finally, the seniors benefit, adding 20% and indexing thereafter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pardy. Ms. Mba, 1 minute for you.
Thank you so much. So our party's focus is on the cost of living predominantly. So we understand that the cost of living affects a lot of things for individuals. So it's not just the cost of food, but everything else that it impacts the ability for people to afford their everyday needs. So we're looking at our platform includes increasing the minimum wage to $22 an hour, removing the HST from children's essentials. And beyond this, we've announced a lot of other things in terms of from the basic income, increasing basic income to an affordable rate, and making sure that when you take care of all the other associated costs that people have to deal with, things like food insecurity become things that you have the money to actually spend money on food and all the other essentials. So taking all care of all the other issues that affect people's bottom line, basically.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us here today. I'm excited about having a discussion about this major topic that we all face at the doorsteps, each and every one of us. We've made some significant strides. Obviously, there's a lot more to do. We've invested some $750 million in affordability measures. We've increased the NL child benefit. We've put a huge investment in $10 a day childcare, which is a significant savings for families, some $4,000 a year for families. We're expanding school food. Within our school program, by the end of this school year, we'll have about 40,000 children receiving warm meals every day in our school system, which is a good thing to be doing. We've tied the seniors benefit to the cost of living, national CPI, which is an important piece. We've increased that by 15% over the last number of years. We're going to be continuing to work hard on those things, but finding out with individuals with lived experience is the best things, and co-developing these type of initiatives is going to be how we get the greatest success, I believe.
Thank you so much for that. So that's the opening round of statements from each of the candidates from the three parties. Now we will move to the question side of things. So each member of LEAG who's here, they're going to ask a question, and there's a bit of a statement with it too. So Tina Hann, we'll start with yourself if we could.
My name is Tina Hann. I've been living in poverty for over 30 years. I lived in Labrador City for 25 years, then moved to the metro area to be closer to the Janeway. I have 3 children with disabilities. 2 are adults that work and have a place of their own that they share with 2 other roommates. My youngest still lives at home with myself and her father. And I've been a part of LEAG since it started in June 2023. My first question. Income support was finally increased in September, but still falls short on lifting the recipients out of poverty. Are you going to raise income support to reflect today's cost of living, or would you consider the implementation of guaranteed basic income for this province?
Thank you so much for that question. And to keep things reasonably fair, what we'll do is, like, if we start right to left, then we'll go left to right, then we'll go for the center out, and we'll roughly keep things equal for who responds to when. So for this, we'll kick off your answer up to a minute. Mr. Davis, you go for it.
Thank you very much for the question. And, we understand that, just a single increase is not going to be anywhere near enough for anything. So, simplifying the income support benefits is one thing that we need to do. We're working on that. We've put in place Metro bus passes for individuals that are on income support, which is a good thing. In my first iteration as Minister responsible for income support, I put forward that initiative with the City of St. John's. That's now been expanded to St. Anthony as well as Corner Brook, which is a good thing. We all realize that transportation is an important piece to be able to get around. There's more to be done, for sure. We've myself and Craig and leader of the NDP, Jim, sit on an all-party committee on basic income. And we'll hopefully get the opportunity to chat a little bit about that as we do that. And we've had great success with some employment stability pilots that we've done with young individuals, and with partnering with Stella Circle and Choices for Youth. So we've seen that. We want to expand that a little further across the province as well.
Thank you so much for that answer. Ms. Mba, 1 minute to you.
Thank you so much. And Tina, thank you so much for sharing. So one of the reasons we even have the Basic Income Committee is because it's something that is near and dear to the NDP's heart, and something that Jim had pushed for in the previous term. So when it comes to being able to help lift people out of poverty, basic income is just one of the many things the NDP is advocating for. But we're also talking about things that, when it comes to healthcare, making sure we shine on to the current federal pharma care program so people can afford their medications when it comes to things like that. Income, when you have only a certain amount of money, you need to ensure that you have as many services available to you so that you can support your other needs. So these are things the NDP is pushing for as well. We're also talking about taking the HST off all forms of heating and electricity. So that way, as we know, our winters are very cold. We don't want people having to juggle, as I've heard people talk about, between their bills, their food, or their heating.
Thank you so much for that. All right, re-rack my clock. Mr. Pardy, 1 minute to you.
Thank you, Tina, for the question. In addition to the 3 aspects that I mentioned in the opening, we realize that we've got and I don't use the word lately, a crisis with children in our province that are living in poverty. And I don't say that loosely, is that if we look at Proof, the University of Toronto, which is probably one of the leading think tanks in food insecurity in our province, in this year's report that they put out using Stats Canada data, is they found that 39.9% of the children in Newfoundland and Labrador live in a food insecure environment. So we've got 63,000 children in our school system. If that report is somewhat accurate, we've got 25,000 children. We've got 4,000 children in kindergarten alone. What that would mean is that we've got 1,600 of them that are coming from food insecure homes. We need to get more finances into these homes to make sure that we bring people out of poverty. It can be, and it is, a crisis.
Thank you so much for that answer. Hailey Pudan, you're up.
Hello. So I'm a community development and outreach worker with an honors BA in human rights and equity with additional certification in anti-racist research and practices and an alumni from York University. I'm also a former student at MUN, majoring in political science and minoring in sociology. I am the daughter of a agricultural migrant worker who came to Canada to pick apples in the 70s from Trinidad and Tobago, and a Caucasian mother born in Canada experiencing intergenerational poverty as a Canadian. I recently relocated to Adams Cove, which has been impacted by the wildfires 2025, and that's where my perspective is here today. I'm looking for collaboration between governments, corporations, nonprofits, and philanthropic funding streams to create an action plan to keep this province on time with the Sustainable Development Goals. So in specific, 1, 2, 11, and 13, end poverty, end hunger, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, as well as take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. So my question is about producer consultation. How will you ensure that farmers' voices and needs are at the center of policy development related to the correlation between climate change and food security? And will you prioritize locally grown food?
We'll start with Laurabel Mba for that one. 1 minute on the clock.
Thank you so much for your question, Hailey. And so, yes, we would be prioritizing that with the NDP. So we're pro small business, and I think the things that a lot of people forget is that farmers and farms are part of the small business ecosystem. So with the NDP, we've seen that this past summer we had droughts through Newfoundland and Labrador, and that's something that comes with climate change and something that hasn't been addressed previously. So for Jim just put forward the transition policy to the House of Assembly, which was a plan to transition our industries and workforce to green production to allow for farmers to retain some more economic growth in the things that they're producing, but to also allow for newer, more holistic, environmentally friendly ways for farming that would increase productions within Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. Pardy,
Yep.
1 minute for you, sir.
My response would be yes as well, most certainly. I think we can't do it without collaboration, consultation with those within the agricultural industry. I think that from my introduction at the start, I mentioned about the essence of having a plan. You've got to know where you're going, and you've got to have specific measurable targets. If not, how can you judge as to whether you've arrived or how meaningful it is? When we look at food production in Newfoundland and Labrador, I've heard stories about the hydroponics in St. Pierre that they're practically self-sufficient in much of their food in St. Pierre. Well, we don't have a plan that would be in the island or on the island or in Labrador that would make us self-sufficient or further self-sufficient than the degree we are. So I think we have much work to do, but your question as far as working with agriculture, that we must. And we want to try to eliminate a lot of the red tape to make it easier for us to be more self-sufficient in our province.
Thank you so much for that answer. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I think we all agree. Thank you so much for the question, and it's a big one. As a former environment minister, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to look at the most sustainable practices we can. It's going to be weather is going to be, systems are going to be more challenging, which is going to slow down the ferry systems that are in this province. We've got to look at other options in doing things. We've set a goal of 10%, and I like Craig's idea of having targets. We set a target of 10% increase in food production in this province. We hit that target. We're going to be pushing harder to get more than that. Working with our agriculture industry is important, finding ways to support them, releasing lands that are in best interest for those agricultural partners to be working with us to develop food. We need that. We need that in this province. One of the things that we're looking at with our food development in schools is looking for local produce to be put into schools as well to do those things. So those are things we're working on, and that 40,000 students that are going to be receiving those warm meals each and every day is going to be an important piece by the end of this year.
You're listening to a special candidate and lived experience discussion about the cost of living, food insecurity, and poverty reduction. I mentioned the folks asking the questions today, not me, it's folks from LLEAG, the Lived and Living Experience Advisory Group of Food First, Newfoundland and Labrador. So this is a team of people from across Newfoundland and Labrador from different backgrounds with different life experiences. So we've heard from a couple folks in studio. We also have had some video submissions from members in different parts of the province because, like with everything with the signal, we like it to be a full province-wide discussion. So when it comes to the next round of questions, we've got a question sent in from Kayla Dillon, and let's give it a listen.
My name is Kayla, and I am a founding member of LLEAG, the Lived and Living Experience Advisory Group. But my most important role is mom. I am a mom of 4 in rural Newfoundland and know all too well the difficulties of school food, especially for my high schoolers. High schoolers want food too. So my question is, how will your party make sure that all children in our province can access school food? I believe that our children are our future, and a nourished belly means nourished minds.
Okay, so that question there from Kayla Dillon, and I will remind folks for the candidates here in the studio: Bernard Davis, Liberal candidate for Virginia Waters-Pleasantville; Craig Pardy, PC candidate for Bonavista; Laurabel Mba, NDP candidate for Mount Scio. Mr. Davis, we'll go with you first on this one. 1 minute to you for your answer.
Well, thank you very much, Kayla, for what you do for the 4 children. I'm a dad of 2 little girls as well, and I think it's really, really incumbent on all of us to make sure the students in our schools get warm food and food in their bellies, because they can't learn without it, outside the fact that it's good for them. We've had significant strides in the school system just in the past year and a half. We've got 22,000 students right now, another 11,000 coming on this September. And hopefully by the end of this year, this school year, we'll have about 40,000 of those children receiving those warm meals every day from school food. N.L. So we're going to continue to do that. The question is not lost on me about the grade 10 to 12s. We're working very closely with expansion on this. We're working very closely with the School Lunch Association, which does some fantastic work. They're some of the team leaders in this country at providing this. And we want to take away the stigma associated with this. So it's a pay-what-you-go system. So people don't know what you're paying at any point in this process, or if you're paying at all.
Thank you so much for that answer. Mr. Pardy, we'll go with you. 1 minute on the clock.
Yep. Thank you, Kayla. I would like to see 2 meals offered to children in schools, breakfast and dinner. 2 nutritious meals in a school. But we all aware, I'm sure in this room, would know that that doesn't look after the impact of poverty at home. That is what the root of what we need to address. I mentioned before about the crisis, and I'll use the 4,000 kindergarten children to know that according to the University of Toronto, that 1,600 of our 4,000 children conceivably are in food insecure homes. So yes, we need to make sure that they are fed and fed well at school, but we got to make sure that we keep our focus to correct what is catastrophic in Newfoundland and Labrador with that number of children that would be in need or in food insecure homes.
Thank you so much for that answer. Ms. Mba, you're up.
And thank you again to Kayla for her question. And so the party is willing and committed to supporting organizations that are already on the ground doing this work. When we think about the issue of food security, they are organizations that are in those smaller communities that have been doing the work and are not adequately resourced as it is. So continuing to work with those organizations that know the needs of the communities, make sure they have the resources in order to appropriately support them instead of trying to rebuild a wheel when there are people on the ground who know what needs to be done and how effectively to use the money in those communities.
Thank you so much. All right. Let's move to another question that was submitted. This one is from Elizabeth Saunders. Let's take a listen.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Saunders. I'm a member of LLEAG, which stands for Lived and Living Experience Advisory Group. So for the people who are running for the upcoming provincial election, I have a question. And it's a question that I think you should think about and give a very honest answer. How will you support people who are struggling for affordable housing in the province? And would you support rent control policies? Thank you.
But Mr. Pardy, 1 minute to you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the question. When we look at housing, we know that we've got a deficit in our province, most certainly. Our platform would be is that over the following number of years, less than 5, then we're hoping to have 10,000 new homes that would be in our province. And one would say that if we didn't look at modular units, then we'd be mistaken. There are now modular concepts of which that can be implemented and rather quickly. As far as the rent controls, we do have some where now a practice where we supplement rent in those high rent areas. And I would think that needs to be responsive and reflexive of what the rent would be in a particular area and go up according to what the demand would be. So that would be something that certainly would be part of a plan to reduce poverty and housing, which is part of poverty in our province.
Ms. Mba, 1 minute.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you, Elizabeth, for your question. So the NDP has already announced within our platform that we are committed to rent control, making sure that people can afford to stay in the homes that they're in, and those who are currently looking to be housed have access to a rent rate that they can afford to be in. And we're committed to increasing the amount of available units within the province, and not just in Newfoundland, but in Labrador as well. We're recognizing that seniors are also struggling with housing, so increasing the amount of senior-specific housing units available to them as well.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Davis, 1 minute to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the great question. I agree with my colleagues here that we need to expand housing. We need to build more houses. The more houses you build, the more costs will come down, the more available stock will be there for individuals to move into. We can expand rental supplements. We've looked at that options. We've done some good work in that in the last couple of years. There needs to be more done in that. We have announced some units in Lab West as an example. Those are areas that we need to start to focus in, areas that are challenging to find housing. We've had proposals out for people to build, but they haven't taken us up on trying to build them because it's costly in those communities to try to build. So we've got to do some creative ideas on building those stock. But one thing is for sure, we need to expand the stock. There is a deficit there that we need to fill. We've expanded some, but we need to do significantly more. And expansions with Newfoundland and Labrador housing is one of those options to look at.
Next, we have a question submitted by Sharon Turnbull.
Hi, my name is Sharon Turnbull from Victoria, Conception Bay, Newfoundland. I am a member of the League for the Seniors. My question for the candidates are, how will you support seniors experiencing poverty and food insecurity and diminishing health care? Thank you.
That's Sharon Turnbull there for that question. Laurabel Mba, I believe we'll start with you this time. 1 minute on the clock. Go for it.
And thank you so much to Ms. Turnbull for her question. So seniors are a large part of our population, and currently they haven't really been paid attention to. So that's something the NDP is committed to doing and ensuring we can provide the resources to seniors in order to support their income in terms of where they are right now, ensure they have access to medical care so they are able to afford their medication and get it accessibly as well.
Thank you for that. Mr. Davis, you're up 1 minute.
Yes, thank you, and thanks, Ms. Turnbull, for the question. I mean, obviously, our seniors have built the communities in which we all thrive in now. So we've got to do everything we possibly can. We've tied the seniors' benefits to cost of living increases through national CPI. We've increased thresholds to try to help seniors stay in their homes that they have so they can do the modifications and home modifications that they want to do to stay in their homes. We've increased the benefit by 15%. We've also done some things for the coast of Labrador to put seniors $500 in the hands of seniors to help offset some of those costs. And obviously the crux of our question is with respect to healthcare and ensuring they have access to good quality healthcare, which is important. The healthcare accord has done some significant improvements. There's a long way to go. It's a 10-year transitional document that we're working our way through, and we've seen some improvements. We know it's never fast enough. We're trying our best to move it as fast as we possibly can. We're committed to seniors. We understand how important it is for the fabric of our community.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Pardy, go for it.
Thank you very much, Sharon. We've talked in the House several times about the seniors and poverty and finding difficulty to make ends meet. One thing we looked at was the Newfoundland and Labrador Seniors Benefit, of which the calculator had the base amount which hadn't changed since 2015. 10 years of inflationary pressures on seniors in our province. In fact, over those 10 years, there was over a 20% increase according to the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So if we didn't adjust at all the formula, we ought not to be surprised that seniors are finding it tough over a 10-year period where there has been no increase. Our party will increase by 20% the amount that seniors receive, and we'll index going forward. That 20% will make up for the last 10 years where we've lost track.
Thank you so much for that answer. We've got one more submitted question. This is from Anna. Let's give it a listen.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from Labrador, but I live in St. John's. I miss home a lot. I miss being out in nature. But it does help with anxiety, which I deal with every day and have since I was about maybe 5 or 6. So my question is, I guess, about the disability tax credit and how that's so hard for people to get. It's been really hard for me. I've been working at it for about over a year now, and in my second round, and we've worked really hard to try to get everything together and get all information needed and get letters of support and provide a lot of examples, and it got denied. So now we're working on fixing that. But I don't want to get denied again. There's so much work going through it every time, and I wish it was easier. I wish it made more sense. I wish there was more help. I wish it was easier to find someone to sign it. That's been really hard because it costs a lot, and most people don't have the money for that. I don't, and I wish there was more help that way, and it was clearer form, and it just made more sense. That would be nice. So I guess my question is, how can we help people navigate this better? How can we make it easier? I wish that it was, and it should be. Thank you.
And thank you for that question and framing it up that way. We'll go with Mr. Pardy first on this one. 1 minute to you, sir.
Yep. Thank you, Adam or Anna. I wish you all the best. Two things that would come to mind there would be the health care. And if we go around the district, we would think that the number one issue that we hear at the doors, I know in the district of Bonavista, and many candidates would say, is health care. Anna referenced that she couldn't get access to a medical provider in order to get the application filled out, or there was trouble getting applications. I had made a request to government to find out how many are on the Canadian tax benefit in our population. Our government didn't have the answer for that. They didn't know. I'm told by the Inclusion Canada N.L. is that we have the lowest uptake in the country on the Canada tax benefit. So there's two issues. One would be healthcare. Number one is making sure we get the data to know those that would be availing of the Canadian tax benefit to assist them.
Thank you so much. Mr. Davis, 1 minute.
Thank you, Anna, and I'm sorry that you're struggling with that. Please feel free to reach out to the Department of Families and Affordability, and the Disability Policy Office to try to help work through that. We talked about co-design earlier, and I think it's really important for people to understand that we've got to be better at co-designing things to make it easier for individuals to apply for things that are challenging. I think Anna's talking about the Canadian disability benefit, which is challenging. I know one that we've announced just recently, which is $400 a month, is a little easier than that to apply for. We wanted to make it a little easier, but that doesn't negate the fact that there's an opportunity for those in the community that could avail of that to avail of close to $600 on a sliding scale for benefit, which has got to be easier. And it goes back to Tina's question first off, where she said she's had kids with disabilities. And we want to make it as easy as possible for people to do that. And the best way to do that is, make sure with the best dignity we can. They shouldn't have to apply 16 times to do something. So that's the kind of thing that we're working on. Co-development is going to be one of those key things that we've uncovered with doing our all-party committee on basic income as well.
Thank you so much for that answer. Ms. Mba, 1 minute to you.
First, I'm sorry to Anna for the difficulty she's engaging trying to get access to that benefit. One of the things when we talk about healthcare that I think sometimes get missed is the support systems when it comes to healthcare. We talk about the doctors and the nurses, which are essential, but system navigators are something that the system typically forgets about when individuals are trying to seek any kind of support. So with our party, we understand when we talk about reforming and rebuilding our healthcare system, also filling in those gaps to making sure we have the doctors, we have the nurses, but we have the support and navigation staff that can help people when they're trying to get through all of this.
This is the wind down phase. One final statement from each of our league members here in the studio, just something, your end thoughts on today or your end message for the candidates and the parties, and then we'll also give the opportunity for each candidate for a 1 minute closer on their thoughts around cost of living, food insecurity, and poverty reduction, which has been the conversation today. And the thing that kind of stands out to me, there's so many different issues that touch and connect to it in Newfoundland and Labrador, from community to community. Tina Hann, we'll start with you. Just your final thoughts in about a minute.
Well, as a person who has filled out the disability tax credit form, I'm not sure if I'm approved or not. It was a very lengthy process, so thank you, Anna, for stating that. I'm also in Newfoundland Labrador Housing. I'm also on income support. So I am that statistic that was spoke about today, living in poverty. Poverty is a very real thing. Poverty has made my body disintegrate to a point where every cell in my body is now in fight or flight mode, which is causing several autoimmune disorders and other things to happen. Maybe with an ounce of prevention, maybe we can eradicate some of the stress, strain, and mental health issues and drug addictions in this province. As you said, we are in a crisis situation, and this crisis needs to be tackled head on in order to make future generations actually want to stay, live, and work here in this province.
Thank you so much. Hailey, Pudan, final minute for your thoughts, for end thoughts for today to you.
All right, so I want to thank all the candidates here today for having this face-to-face conversation in a public setting, facilitated in a news-type setting. It really gives hope to some of us who still want to have hope in the future. I just wanted to touch base on how Tina had mentioned basically intersectionality and how that qualifies you for more stigma and more systemic discrimination, and how to navigate your life or how to navigate these forms. And this disability tax credit, it's very helpful to some capacity. There's room for improvement, clearly. But just to give perspective, I qualified for the tax credit, but I don't qualify for the actual CPP disability. And that was because I didn't work enough to qualify for it. I was a home care provider for my parents as they were palliative, aged in place, and wanted to die at home with dignity. So with all these different little marginalizations, there's lots of people who want to work who can't, who now can't qualify for different systems of supports. And you know what? I would be a volunteer for life for any and every cause. But having a income floor or universal basic income would so help me invest even more of my time and energy into the community and have less health issues or mental health issues and stress, because I know my rent's paid, food is on the table, my daughter can, have a stable home, because that's all that matters to me at the end of the day is stability for my child. And many of us here in Newfoundland and Labrador are suffering because of all these little systemic gaps and potholes we keep falling in that we can't get ourselves out of.
Thank you so much, Hailey. We'll go right to left for final comments, about a minute each, right? Mr. Pardy, we'll start with you.
Well, ladies, thank you very much. You've inspired me listening to your stories. It does speak that we do have a crisis in our system. I mentioned before about the consumer price index, and in 2022, the Consumer Price Index was 6.4% in Newfoundland and Labrador. In the 2023 budget, if you look, the word poverty is not mentioned at all. We have all these national think tanks that would put us as being the worst in the country. The Food Bank report card, proof out of the University of Toronto. But what is most alarming is that poverty is the greatest indicator of future health care cost and well-being. So we ought not to be waiting any longer, and it has to be addressed as we speak. And we can't have 39.9% of children in Newfoundland and Labrador living in poverty. We know that if you live in poverty, your health is affected going forward. You're going to need more medical services. We're talking about mental health being affected. Your social well-being is affected. We've gone too long before addressing the issue.
Thank you so much. Laurabel Mba, 1 minute.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you and to everyone else who submitted their questions. Poverty has many faces. It's not just seniors, it's not just the working class, and it's not just children. And because it has many faces, it needs a multifaceted approach in order to tackle it. And that's something the NDP is committed to do. We all know that when we do better, our neighbors do better. And that is the guiding principle for the NDP and for this party. And we're committed to doing better for all people. So when we're talking about addressing poverty, we're talking about basic income, we're talking about access to healthcare, we're talking about education, we're talking about taking care of every level of the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador. So from the seniors to the young, and making sure everyone in between has their needs met.
Thank you so much. Bernard Davis, final thoughts for you.
Thank you to all those fantastic individuals, Anna, Hailey, Sharon, Kayla, and Elizabeth. Thank you for your questions and your thoughts. It's given us a lot to think about as candidates here, but you know, we've heard from some people on our doorsteps that are having similar concerns. It can't be about patching holes. We've got to come up with building fairer, more dignified society, which is what we're trying to do in a system that supports that. Whether it's childhood poverty or low income barriers to employment. We've seen some successes in pilots that we've put in place with employment support stability programs, both with Stella's Circle and Choices for Youth. That's several hundred students and young individuals have had the ability to benefit from. We want to make sure those wraparound supports exist, working with and co-developing some of the strategies, because we want to take away the stigma, not unlike what we're trying to do in our school system. And I don't disagree with Craig that there could be more meals in there. That's why we have a breakfast program, and we support that quite heavily. And we have a lunch program that's going to hit 40,000 students by the end of this year. And we're going to continue to expand that even further. And it's not lost on me that we've got high school students that we got to deal with. And it's not lost on me that the disability benefit needs to be a little more simpler. That's something that I'm hoping to work on when I get back there. Thank you very much.
And thank you all very much for this discussion. And that concludes the discussion here on The Signal about cost of living, poverty reduction, food insecurity. So thank you to the League members. Thank you to the candidates. And thank you, folks, for watching and for listening. Cheers.